Okay, so let's dive straight in. This time, we're about to explore the 4-decade musical partnership between Little Richard and his incredible saxophonist, Kenny International Walker. Our goal here is to really understand how Kenny Walker didn't just play with Little Richard, but how he was, a key force in crafting that electrifying live experience we all associate with him.
Exactly. And what's so compelling is that while Little Richard's name is legendary, right, the crucial contributions of musicians like Kenny Walker, who stood beside him for so many years, often remain, less known.
Yeah, kind of in the shadows.
Yeah, so this deep dive gives us a fantastic opportunity to shine a light on Kenny's pivotal role and his own fascinating musical journey.
Absolutely. It's like peeling back the layers of rock and roll history to see what made it so explosive, So let's start with Kenny's roots. Milwaukee, born and raised. He picked up the saxophone at 12, but apparently he was even tooting on a bugle before that. Sounds like a natural musician from the get-go.
It does, yeah. And when you look at his early musical diet, you see the foundations of what he brought to Little Richard's sound. He cites Junior Walker. You can almost hear that raw, honking energy.
Oh, yeah?
In his playing along with Maceo Parker, the architect of funk saxophone with James Brown.
The inventor of funk, basically.
Pretty much. But he also absorbed the smoother, more melodic approaches of jazzmen like Stanley Durantine and King Curtis.
Right.
So it's this blend of gritty funk, soulful melodies, and jazz sophistication that really defines his early influences. You can almost anticipate how this diverse background would enrich Little Richard's more primal rock and roll.
Which makes how Little Richard brought him into the fold even more intriguing. The biography snippet draws that parallel to Maceo joining James Brown.
Yeah, a real meeting of musical minds.
A real meeting of musical minds. And in the Daryl Davis interview, Kenny mentions Little Richard's famous stage command, Glow Kenny, which echoed for 40 years.
40 years.
40 years. That's not just a catchphrase. It speaks to an incredibly deep and enduring musical connection, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And the story of how he actually joined Little Richard's band is quite something. He was performing with his 12-piece band, A Different Bag, at the Climax 2 in Beverly Hills.
Wow, 12 pieces.
Yeah. Little Richard heard about their energy, came down to see them, and was so impressed that he sent a note to the drummer, who is Kenny's brother, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, inviting the entire band to his hotel. Imagine that.
The entire 12-piece band. That's a seismic shift from Little Richard's previous setup. Kenny mentioned he usually had like a rhythm section and maybe a single horn player.
Right, a much smaller outfit.
Yeah. Suddenly, he's got this full-on funk and soul machine with 2 drummers and a bunch of guitarists. What a sound that must have been.
Indeed. And here's where it gets really interesting. They started playing together without any formal rehearsals.
No way.
Yeah. Kenny described it as them taking their R&B and funk sensibilities and basically on the fly, forging their own high-octane version of rock and roll.
Yeah.
That immediate chemistry and adaptability, it really highlights their exceptional musicianship.
Definitely. And Kenny wasn't just another face in the crowd. He became the lead saxophone player for a significant stretch. Though Daryl Davis's recollections suggest an even longer, if somewhat intermittent run that really solidified in those later years, maybe on and off.
Yeah, it seems like maybe it was a bit back and forth, but culminating in him being really central for those last couple of decades, definitely.
Yeah.
And his influence went way beyond just his saxophone solos. He was instrumental in crafting the live horn arrangements, bringing a real depth and punch to their sound. But what really stands out, I think, is his involvement in the visual spectacle of their performances.
The choreography.
Right.
He actually devised the stage movements and dances for the horn section.
Yeah. He even took tap dancing lessons to better understand rhythm and movement patterns.
That's dedication. Seriously.
It is. And when Daryl Davis described Little Richard's band as, and I quote, the greatest rock and roll band of all time, you can understand why.
High praise.
Very high praise. He emphasizes their tightness, that relentless energy, and the sheer impact of double drums coupled with a powerful horn section. Kenny's horn arrangements, the choreographed moves, even his input on what the band wore, it all contributed to this incredibly dynamic and unforgettable stage presence. As Kenny himself put it, it was like aerobics with music.
Aerobics with music. I love that. You can just picture this incredible energy just radiating from the stage. And it seems their R&B and funk roots weren't just a starting point. They actively shaped Little Richard's rock and roll in a really distinctive way. Kenny talked about adding this unique clunk, almost a percussive element, right?
Yeah, like a percussive hit.
And a level of raw energy that just compelled audiences to get on their feet.
That's a fantastic way to describe it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about playing the notes. It was about injecting a feeling, a groove that was deeply rooted in their R&B background. And Kenny's remarkable longevity with Little Richard, it speaks volumes about his adaptability and the band's ability to stay fresh and exciting across changing musical trends.
Decades worth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Daryl Davis's anecdotes about Richard's onstage adjustments, like correcting them mid-song, sometimes actually underscore the band's high level of professionalism.
Yeah.
And their commitment to delivering a tight, electrifying show night after night. They took pride in it.
Right, so it's so clear that Kenny was an absolutely vital ingredient in Little Richard's live shows. But it's also true, as the sources point out, that despite this incredibly long and impactful partnership, his name might not be instantly recognizable to everyone. Why do you think that is? Is it just the nature of being a sideman?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. That's a common story for incredibly talented sidemen in the music industry, isn't it? The spotlight often shines brightest on the front person.
True.
However, it's important to remember that the sources also illuminate Kenny's impressive resume beyond Little Richard. His collaborations with artists like Isaac Hayes,
Wow, okay.
James Ingram, Bobby McFerrin, the Marquis, Luther Ingram, it really showcases his versatility and the respect he commanded within the broader music community.
Yeah, those aren't small names.
Not at all. These weren't just casual gigs. They were significant collaborations that highlight his talent across different genres.
And he even made a brief appearance in the Little Richard Story movie, which is a nice, albeit small, acknowledgement of his role in that iconic musical journey.
A little nod, yeah.
Plus, Daryl Davis, who's a fantastic musician in his own right, shared how playing with Kenny elevated his own band's performance significantly, saying his game was stepped up 10 notches.
That's a powerful testament, isn't it?
Yeah, from someone who experienced it firsthand. That really says something about Kenny's musicianship and just his stage presence.
It truly is. And when you delve into Kenny's personal stories, you really get a sense of his artistry and his resilience too. His first band, A Different Bag, originally called the New Breed Band.
Okay.
Sounds like quite an ambitious undertaking with his 8-piece horn section. That's huge.
8 horns.
Yeah. Their move to Memphis, landing that gig at the Showcase, apparently. Despite the initially meager pay, they eventually evolved into the final iteration of the Marquis Memphis horns.
No kidding. The actual Marquis.
Yeah, or at least the last version of them. That's a significant chapter in Memphis music history right there.
Absolutely incredible. From a huge horn band in Milwaukee to becoming part of the legendary Memphis music scene, that's quite a journey.
It really is.
And then you've got the tales of playing with Isaac Hayes, even opening for him and having Hayes sit in.
Right.
And the near miss with Al Green, ultimately choosing Hayes because of his higher profile at the time. That shows not only musical talent, but also like a sharp understanding of the music business.
Definitely. Bit of savvy there.
Right.
And his knack for recognizing and nurturing talent is further highlighted by the fact that both Bobby McFerrin and James Ingram,
Oh yeah, you mentioned them.
who went on to achieve considerable fame, were members of Kenny's band after they left Little Richard.
Wow. So he had his own thing going too.
Yeah, it speaks volumes about his ear for musical potential and his ability to create a fertile ground for artistic growth,
Totally. It seems Kenny himself has a very grounded and insightful perspective on his career, saying he's been making a lot of bands great and expressing real pride in the role he played in shaping Little Richard's iconic band. There's a humility there, but also, a clear sense of accomplishment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring to see that he's not just resting on his past achievements. He's released recent singles like Beauty's on Duty and Big Time Groupie,
Oh, cool.
with a debut album apparently on the horizon. And he's still actively performing, as we saw with his recent birthday celebration back in Milwaukee. He's clearly still a vibrant and creative force.
That's great to hear. He is. And it's interesting to catch a glimpse of his passions outside of music, his interest in spectator sports and equestrianism.
Yeah, horses.
Right. It paints a picture of a well-rounded individual with a life beyond the stage, and the mention of his brother Donald's book, The Unknown Musician, inspired by their band's journey. That sounds like it would offer an even deeper, more personal look into their experiences in the music world.
It certainly would. It underscores the dedication and the often unseen struggles and triumphs of musicians who contribute so much to the music we love. It's a story from the trenches, so to speak.
Definitely. So to bring it all together, what we've seen is that Kenny International Walker was far more than just a sideman for Little Richard. He was a crucial architect of that legendary live energy and sound for over 4 decades.
Absolutely.
A true master of the saxophone and a vital force in blending funk and soul into the very fabric of rock and roll. His influence rippled out to other musicians, even if his own name is always the first one that comes to mind when we think of rock and roll history.
Yeah, sadly often the case.
And through his personal stories, we've glimpsed the artistry, the resilience, and the enduring legacy of a musician who dedicated his life to making great music happen.
That's a perfect summation.
Yeah.
And it really underscores how many unsung heroes there are behind the iconic sounds and performances we cherish.
Exactly. Which leads me to this thought for you, for everyone listening, really. Considering the profound yet often underappreciated contributions of someone like Kenny Walker, it really makes you wonder about all the other iconic musical moments throughout history that owe their magic to these kinds of deep, long-standing, behind-the-scenes partnerships.
Good point.
What other musical duos or band dynamics deserve a deeper dive to truly understand the hidden forces that shaped our musical landscape? It might be time we all started listening a little closer, maybe, to the voices just off center stage.
That's a wonderfully thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
It encourages us to look beyond the marquee names and appreciate the collaborative spirit that drives so much of the music we love.
Absolutely. So if you're curious to hear more of Kenny International Walker's own musical voice, we highly recommend checking out his recent singles, Beauties on Duty and Big Time Groupie.
Yeah, definitely worth a listen.
And definitely try to find some live footage of Little Richard featuring Kenny's incredible saxophone playing. It's out there. And if you want to delve even deeper, look for his brother Donald's book, The Unknown Musician.
And keep an eye out for his upcoming debut album. It sounds like it will be a fantastic continuation of his rich and varied musical journey.
Great point. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you a new appreciation for the incredible talent and contributions of Kenny International Walker.